Hi, welcome back to Therapy Designs. If you're new to this channel, my name is Kelly, and this channel is all about creating print-on-demand designs using Canva. So if that is something that you're interested in, please hit like and subscribe and stick around. So in today's video, I'm going to be covering a lesser known niche. I'm going to show you guys how you can create these two designs right here, talk a little bit about creating different designs for one niche. So if this is something that you are interested in learning about, please do stick around. So here I am on Canva's homepage, and I will be designing for a t-shirt today. So I'm going to go ahead and start by hitting the custom size button in the right-hand corner of the page. I'm going to select 4500 by 5400 pixels, and I do use that design for all of my t-shirts. It is the design that's recommended by Amazon Merch, so that is why I use it. I also do prefer to optimize my designs for darker color shirts, as those do tend to sell better than the lighter color shirts. So I usually set my background color to black right at the beginning so I can make sure to optimize my design there for the dark colors. Now in today's video, I want to talk about a niche that's a little bit less popular, but that is coming up. And it's always good to throw out some designs there in niches that aren't entirely saturated. So we will be doing more Halloween designs coming up, but as you know, Halloween is a very, very saturated niche. So I'm going to go slightly off of that, and I'm going to talk about Fat Bear Week or Fat Bear season. And so Fat Bear Week is something that happens in October. And what it is almost a contest, I think, to find the fattest bear. And this has to do with them eating a lot prior to hibernation. So obviously the bears hibernate through the winter. So at the end of summer, they have to eat as much as they can and store as much fat to get through the winter. And so there's literally contests where they search for the fattest bear and title a winner. And so Fat Bear season is a thing. People who are into the outdoors, national parks, things like that, may be interested in Fat Bear season shirts, decorations, whatever it is that you like. It's just a nice, funny niche. And I'm going to show you how we can do that. There's several different ways. I'll give you a couple different examples, but just a simple, fun one today. So the first one is super, super easy to make. It's only going to have 2 rows of text and a graphic in the middle. So that's super easy. So we're going to start by hitting T on the keyboard. And that's going to pull up a text box. And I'm going to be writing this in all caps, and it is going to say, "It's Fat Bear." That'll go on the top. I'm going to hit T, pull up another text box, and that one's going to say season, and that will go at the bottom. And so season is going to be down here. It's Fat Bear is going to be up here, and we are going to select a graphic of a bear here. Now, when we're designing, obviously there's a zillion ways you could do this design. The idea is to try to make sure that your font and your graphic mesh and you have sort of a cohesive style. So I'll show you 2 different styles, and we'll try to make sure that they're pretty cohesive, but there's a zillion ways you can do this. So the first one is going to be more of that grunge style. And so in order to do that, we're going to make sure that we get some grunge fonts and a graphic that is a little bit, I guess, more grunge looking. But let's start with the graphic, because you're always limited in graphics, but there's 1,000 fonts. So if you find the graphic you want, it's easier to match the font versus starting with a font and trying to match a graphic to go with it. That's a lot harder. So we're going to go ahead and go over to the left side, hit Elements, and we are going to be looking for a bear. And you will see there's photos and graphics that you can choose from. I'm going to go ahead and go to Graphics. There are tons of different styles, from little cute cartoon ones, and I suppose, yeah, you could do that if you wanted to more realistic watercolor styles, silhouette styles, outline styles. So there's so many different styles that you can use. We've got like the growling bear style, and so you could make a different, I guess, design using each of these styles if you wanted to. For right now, I'm just looking for an example of more of a grunge style one to show you guys. And so I'm going to scroll down and look at some different ones. Here, for example, I'm going to have to go ahead and make that a light color. Here is a nice like sketched one. And that one's kind of cool. I don't know that it's going to necessarily go as well with the grunge style I want, but it's a possibility. So anytime you see one that's a possibility, you can always go ahead, drag it and drop it onto your page and then get rid of it. That'll save it to your recently used. So then you can always go back to your recently used and look through all the ones that you had kind of saved as good possibilities. So that's what I do as I'm going through anything that I think might be something I'd like. I'll go ahead and select. I'm going to go ahead and make it light so I can see it. And if it's something that I think might be a good one, there we go. It'll be saved over to my recently used. So that's another cool one there. It's got a nice sketch feature to it. I kind of like that. You can see other examples there. Here's a growling one. Here's one with a little crown on it. You could be Fat Bear King and do the one with the crown. There's lots of ways you could do that. That might be actually a funny idea too. Would be like the Fat Bear King. Here's one where it's grunge, but it looks like somebody ran over the middle of it. That's interesting. So that's different. I'm not entirely sure what the idea of that one is there, but that one's a little bit more grunge different. Here's another good two-tone one. So the two-tone ones are really good for printing too, because they're going to be super sharp and clear. Not that I don't like to do colorful ones too. I do plenty of them where it's like a full, for example, let me grab this one. Where this one here, it's got a lot of different shades, lots of different colors. This will print fine, by the way. People always ask how that would print on a shirt. It prints fine. You usually don't get it as bright, and you usually don't get quite as much contrast. So if you were comparing the screen to the shirt, it would look a little bit duller. But guess what? When people are buying the shirts, they're not comparing your screen version to the shirt. They're just looking at the shirt. And with that in mind, it does print well. So if you ever had any questions about that, you could absolutely do this sort of style here too. But again, just the black and white style always works really well for printing. Here's a nice one that just has sort of that silhouette, and that's kind of cool there too. I do like the silhouette style, and that would be a nice naturey one. And there's some more here that you could go with, some different colored ones. And let's see if I can find the one I want to show you guys, okay? This one actually works really well for what I wanted to show you. And the cool thing that I liked about this one and others that I've seen like it is you've got your bear, but then they actually put like a mountainscape in it. So we can see the mountain here and the trees here, but it's still within the look of a bear, and it does sort of get a little bit of that grunge textured look. So I actually really did like this one. Sometimes you do have to refine your searches a little bit too. So initially I just searched bear. Then what I did was search bear, and then I put mountains, and it gave me a little bit more of that wilderness feeling bears as opposed to just strictly just a bear by itself. And so I did like that, and those kind of styles look really good too. So let's go ahead and start with this one here. So I'm going to close this, and we're just going to find some text that is going to look good, or some fonts. So one thing that you can always do is go up here and try searching for fonts by hitting grunge or textured. Any of those will pull up the different grunge or textured style fonts. That makes it a lot easier to start looking through, because then what we can start doing is just testing them out and seeing how they look. So for example, I like that one. I think it would look good down here. It matches the overall kind of grunge look of the bear. I can throw it right down here, make it nice and big. And so right off the bat, I kind of like that one. Now the top, I could keep the same font. I might go with a different one. If I can get something that's a little bit more narrow, I can make it a little bit bigger. Otherwise, this looks kind of small. So I may look for something that's grungy, but maybe a little bit more narrow. And so it's always fun to kind of just keep going. One of the ones that I like that is narrow but is grunge is one called Zoomy Rough Bold. So that one will again give you that grunge look, but because it's a little bit more narrow, I can make that a lot bigger, and so it's a lot easier to read that way. Now what I wanted to do also is maybe curve this along the top, give it a little bit of a curve, so I can go to Effects, come down to Curve, and maybe give it just you know, a gentle curve depending on how I want to do that. I may actually want to space this down just a little bit, so I can always bring everything down just a smidge. And so I like the way that that is looking there, and I got a little bit of space here for the bear. And so that right there is really cool. So that is one version of a fun Fat Bear season shirt that people might wear out in the wilderness, out hiking, if somebody's going to a national park. You know, that's a good kind of style of design. It's one tone, it's big, it will print well, and it will look cool. Now, another style to do would be something that's a lot cleaner. So instead of doing the grunge style, we do one of those clean styles. And there's 1,000 ways to do that. And so for the second design I want to show you, I'm just going to give you a completely contrasting one. And instead of a bear itself, I'm actually just going to go with a bear footprint. But it's going to be the same general idea. So again, we'll pull up a couple text boxes. I'll put "It's Fat Bear" on the top. And again, I'm going to go like that. And then pull up another text box. Season will come at the bottom. And I'm going to do it, this one, we're going to use more of a bear footprint or a paw print. So I'm going to go to Elements, and let's go ahead and search for bear paw print. Let's see what comes up here. Lots of fun bear paw prints that we can do. Make sure it's a bear and not a dog. The bear prints are going to have those cool nails there. So something like that would look good, or that would look good. So like there's a paw print for a bear. And so that looks pretty cool there. I can do something like that. And I think that that's probably all I want. There's also, you know, you can do the two paw prints there. There's another one. There's another one. There's some grunge styles. Let's just go with this one because it's easy. So if this was going to be my center image, let's say, what I'm looking for then would be to have text that is not grunge, because this is not grunge. So I want it to look, you know, nice and clean. So let's go ahead and pick some fonts that are a little bit cleaner. So for here, I still want it to be a little bit more of a narrow font, but I don't want anything rough or grunge. So for this one, I went ahead and went with one that I like that's called Placard Next. Now, they do have this in condensed and in wide, but it's a nice narrow font here, so just the regular one is fine. So it's Fat Bear, and I do want that to be all caps again too. And so I could stretch that out, something like that. And I'm actually thinking I might make it a little bit more spaced because I might want it to curve more. So this one was kind of a gentle curve, but because of the shape of the paw, I might want it to do almost one of those curves where it curves all around. And so in order to do that, I can start by just getting a nice curve, and then we can expand that letter spacing there, something like that, so that you can sort of see the way that that would look. So my It's Fat Bear season right there. And I may need to shrink it down a little bit so I've got space in the page, obviously. So something there. I still think I want it to be spaced a little bit further. So I want it to come all the way down. When I want it to come all the way down, it looks like it's curving a little too much. I can go to Effects. This is where you might have to play just a little bit. I can open up that circle. That way it comes down farther, but without looking like it's curving all the way under. Now it still looks a little bit big in the page, but that's okay. I can resize it all later. So then Season, I also wanted to do a nice clean font here. And so I think I was just going to go ahead and stick with the same one. That one, the Placard Next, and in uppercase. Now, if I wanted to keep them close to the same size, that is 590. I would need this one to be pretty close to 590 as well. 590, 599, close enough. And I would still need to then space those out. So we kind of get this style here where you get that nice spacing. 590, 599. Do you think I need that spaced out a little bit more? And so at some point you find yourself just sort of playing with spacing. I do want this one to be a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of almost airy isn't the right word, but yeah, so it's less condensed, lighter. Everything's spaced out a little bit more. Everything's a little bit cleaner. So we got something maybe a little bit more like that. It's Fat Bear season, and then I usually put some sort of a graphic here just to fill that space. And so because it's mountains, I could do a little mountain, or I could do a little like evergreen tree, pine tree kind of thing. So if I put pine tree, and I'd just be looking for something that just looks like a regular pine tree, something like that would be perfect, a nice silhouette style. Relatively realistic looking, probably nothing like that. That's a little bit more, you know, I don't know what the right word is, abstract, but something that looks a little bit more like a tree. So this one's kind of cool here because it's not quite as tall and skinny. It's got a little bit more width to it, which is kind of going to work better. And so we would go something maybe like this. And what, of course, I could do here would again be to bring that letter spacing in a little bit if I needed to, so that that looks kind of good. Hit Control D, that's going to duplicate it. I'll bring it over to the side here. And so now what I've got is this design here, and I think it's spaced pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead, cover the whole thing so it's grouped. I might shrink it a little bit, move it up in the page, make sure it's centered. And so there would be another version of a design that I might do. I might even still, if I bring that line there, I still want to bring that season out a little bit more, because what I want is for that to kind of go side to side. It might be okay to make that look a little bit bigger sized. So there, that looks a little bit better there. It's Fat Bear season. And so that is a totally different style, obviously, than the one at the front, even though, you know, they say the same thing and the general layout is more or less the same, but we've got two totally different styles for different people, because obviously different people are going to have different preferences. So it's always a good idea to make several versions of a design for one given niche. So for this one given niche, I could make 10, 20, 30 different versions that are all slightly different and made for a different audience. And so I just wanted to give you guys that little comparison. But again, this is a lesser known niche, but still a good one. And of course, you can use these techniques for anything, for like hiking designs or outdoorsy kind of designs too. Camping, those are all popular. If you have any questions about this, drop it in the comments section below. I try to get back to everybody as quickly as I can. I hope you guys are doing really good with your sales. I hope you guys are all ready for the fourth quarter and are just being really creative and coming up with some great new things and expanding your skills. So again, I hope you guys are doing well, and I do hope to see you guys again next week. That's it for today's video. If you found that useful and would like to see more videos with helpful tips and tricks, be sure to hit like and subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of the weekly videos. As always, keep growing and stay creative, and we'll see you next time.